free ferry at Woolwich links the eastern end of the north and south circular roads. Cars and lorries drive directly onto the ferries and new terminals. When the ferry is loaded, electrically operated winches raise the bridge ramps. The ferry starts the short crossing of the River Thames. The ferries operate at about 10-minute intervals, depending on the state of the river traffic. The crossing takes about 5 minutes. 25,000 vehicles use the ferry each week. There are 3 ferry boats, all named after prominent members of the old London County Council, which operated the service for over 60 years.
Construction commenced in May 1964. Precast, reinforced concrete piles were cast off-site. The first pile was driven by a diesel hammer, but the contractors subsequently found that steam-operated equipment was more efficient. Substantial temporary works were installed before a start could be made on the cofferdams and lifting towers. Gabbard towers were erected in the river to support the fixed derrick cranes on the north and south banks. A floating 10-ton derrick mounted on 3 barges was also used throughout the construction of the works.
The approach piers leading to the bridge ramps are carried on driven precast concrete piles. About 300 18-inch by 18-inch piles with lengths varying from 55 feet to 70 feet were constructed. The pier deck consists of a reinforced concrete slab, generally 14 inches thick. The soffit shuttering was hung from a steel grillage, which was supported on tapered steel pins, resting on the piles. cofferdams were very close to the old terminals, which were kept in operation throughout the contract.
After dewatering the South Bank Dam, the chalk was excavated to a depth of about 6 feet within the cofferdams. On the North Bank, where the chalk was found to have been disturbed, the dam could not be dewatered. Excavation and piling were carried out underwater before placing a tremi-concrete plug and pumping dry. At the South Terminal, where the chalk is hard, pre-bored holes were made into which the piles were pitched before driving to a set. At high water, the differential head on the cofferdams was over 40 feet, and pumping was continuous.
New ferry boats were operated with the old side loading terminals until the new terminals were completed. The need to maintain the service without a break complicated the building of the terminals, but no accident occurred despite the close approach to the cofferdams that was involved. With the side berthing arrangements, loading and unloading were very slow, since vehicles had to be manoeuvred in order to make the maximum use of the ferry deck area.
The lower sections of the lifting towers are of solid construction. Rails were cast into the tower concrete to guide the rollers on the hoisting beams and the bridge ramps.
He wants to come down before that, Mr. Dan. I'd like to take it down the bottom. Look at the small print carefully for that.
Special jigs were used to hold the rails in position to within close limits during concreting. Board-marked shuttering was used for the external faces of the towers to provide a surface texture that would weather satisfactorily. As construction advances, the towers rise above the level of the ferries to a final height of 100 feet.
The 4 bridge ramps were assembled on the south bank. The lattice girders have high-strength friction grip bolted connections. The steel deck plates were stiffened by bent flats, fabricated in panels in the shop, and butt-welded on site. The spans are articulated transversely to accept movement due to rolling of the ferries when berthed. After assembly on the south bank, they were moved forward on tracks carried over the river and lifted off by a floating pontoon on a rising tide. The pontoons were towed by tugs and the bridge ramps parked near their final position at the ends of the approach piers. bridge ramps for the North Terminal had to be towed across the main shipping channel. The PLA stopped river traffic for a short time during this operation. The ramps were lifted into their final positions on their bearings using the PLA's 200-ton capacity London Mammoth. The shore end roller bearings take up horizontal movement during the operation of the bridge ramps.
The erection of the machinery could not be started until the tower construction was almost complete. The main triple reduction gearbox for one of the 40 horsepower electric winches. The chains supporting the main counterweights.
By the summer of 1966, construction was well advanced. The last sections of parapet were concreted. The pier decks were surfaced with hot-rolled asphalt.
The terminals were opened on the 18th of September 1966. With the official party on board, the ferry sailed from the South Terminal, and the chairman of the Greater London Council spoke during the crossing. As the ferry approached the North Terminal, Dr. Husband presented the traditional pair of scissors to the Honourable Rex Whitton, Federal Highway Administrator of the United States of America, who formally opened the terminals.